What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bling Talks. Today we have Lillian Raji, the president of Lillian Raji Agency at lillianraji.com. Thank you so much for being with us today. I can't wait to
Thank
talk
you
to you
for
and have you
having
on.
me. I'm excited.
Likewise. So, you're located in Miami. First and foremost, just tell us, what you do, the name of your company, so people know where you're coming from, and obviously know how to find you in the event that becomes something they want to do.
All right. My name again, Lillian Raji with the Lillian Raji Agency. Uh, the first place you can find me is just lillianraji.com. And then there's a second, I call it my brand extension. It's called the pradvisor.com, where that site is where you can find all the information you possibly need on launching your own jury business, your own marketing and PR strategy off of that site.
Awesome. Awesome. Super cool. So tell us, how you got in the business. How did this all start?
Yes, it started with me being stubborn. Um, let me see how far back I take the story. We'll fast forward the story to Turno because that's when we're talking about jury, so we'll start there. I got interested in PR around the time of September 11th, and those who are in the industry will remember there was a hiring freeze around that time for anybody who wants to be in a communications agency. And yes, I'm aging myself here. But yes, that I was like 5 when that happened. No. And it was hard for me to get a job in PR. So I started at Turner Watch Store and I decided, let me freelance in PR, which is what I was doing. And I figured by the time the hiring freeze lifts, I'll be in a position to be in a higher level at an agency. What I didn't realize then that I now understand now is that agencies don't like to hire people who've been freelancing for too long because they
Mm.
don't feel like they can acclimate to the way of things. So I was doing myself a disservice in that one goal, but I end up creating another opportunity for myself to launch my own company. So after like not getting hired at any agency, I decided to launch the Lillian Raji agency. At the time, I was the number one sales rep for the watch brand Dubin Child and Brown. So of all the Turnos and all of the Turno, well, Turno's not Bukra, but back then it was Turno, and they had 12 locations worldwide, and I sold the most Dubin Child and Brown up everybody, all the stores across the country. And so I called the rep, Buddy, and I'm like, Buddy, you're gonna have to find somebody else to sell your watches. I'm leaving Turno to start my agency. And he's like, well, my boss is looking for a PR person. So I end up meeting with them in New York. Ken Grazi, he owned Kenjo in New York, and then he was also a distributor for Duban Shaw and Brown, Volna, Aquanatic, and Clerk watches. So I started my agency taking Dubay and the rest of the brand as my first set of clients, and then I just built from there.
Wow, that is awesome. That is a
Yeah.
super organic way to kind of fall into that spot. And it's crazy how, you mentioned 9/11. It's crazy how things like that can really put a halt on some stuff, but it's unique how humans and true entrepreneurs find a way to kind of adapt and survive either way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you jumped right into the jewelry space, and uh can you kind of just give us example of what a typical client experience looks like? They come to you needing what, um at like as in present day, how that business works right now, and kind of what that experience looks like, and how your services kind of fix those pain points or get them to those goals.
So there are two ways we can look at it. If you're coming in for a full service, I call my fractional CMO services, which is basically my team serves as your external PR department, and I'm handling everything. But the first thing always with me is we go through a 3-day workshop where we go over questions. It actually begins with a questionnaire, a 20-page questionnaire, which everybody hates, but you have to fill it out. And then I come to your office, and then for 3 days, I tear apart all of your answers. Like, this is horrible. No, this is wrong. This is what you need. And we figure out what the message is that you want to communicate. Then once we figure out what your message is, and we also figure out exactly what it is that you want, because PR communications can have different objectives. People I'm known for getting people into Wall Street Journal, into New York Times, Bloomberg. I'm known for that. But sometimes that's not what you need, because a lot of times it doesn't necessarily translate to sales. Even though it's this premier publication, it's not going to translate to sales. So if you want prestige, like my former client Watchbox, for instance, the work I did with them attracted the attention of a Hong Kong investment group and legitimized the company, legitimized what they were doing, and the group ended up investing $100 million into the business and then helped it grow and expand. Yes. But then there are other clients who are thinking, all right, the prestige is nice, but we want sales, you know. So I'll look at it like, okay, we'll look at a content marketing strategy to support your SEO. So that's where I will bring in writers to help write very good stories that not only support SEO, but also draw the interest of your customers, and including a newsletter. Like most newsletters, they just irritate the hell out of me because they send me, like, I'll take for instance Shiseido. I heard about this brand years ago. A friend gave me a sample. I tried it out. I liked it, and I tried to go back and get some more recently. And so I wanted to learn more about the brand, so I signed up for the newsletter. Well, I don't know much about the brand, but all their newsletters are them trying to sell me products that I don't know what they do for me. And it makes me crazy because it's like, when it comes to newsletters, you have to have a strategy in place. Yes, you want to do once a week that sells something, but you also want to tell the story. So I have specific skin concerns that I want. If Shiseido had focused on sending me, yes, send me a selling one, fine. Once a week, send me a selling one. But then once a week also highlight a particular product and say this is what this product does, the story behind it, all of that. A lot of people miss that in their communication strategy, because it's like the more you tell the stories to the customer, the more they start becoming emotionally invested in your brand. I'm like, okay, this is fascinating, let me go to the website and see if there's anything else I like. So that's another aspect of what we do when we talk about the content strategy, the SEO, in terms of the articles, and then what the newsletter looks like. And of course, social media, because you can't not do social media if it makes sense for your brand, what we're doing with that. Whether it's setting up your Instagram and TikTok accounts, or getting you connected with influencers, and that's a different topic that I use. I don't use it a lot because influencers make me crazy. Um, if we have time, we'll get into some insane influencer experiences. But in all, we look at what it is that you need on a holistic level and say, okay, this is the best path to get you where you are, and let's go ahead and set and create that for you. And then um, either you have people on your team existing that can actually execute the work, and if you don't, then my team, I'll assemble a team together from my people to actually do the work for you.
Such a good description, by the way, and painted two really good experiences. And I also kind of picked up on a few really cool things there that I learned from. Um, and that I'll probably need to implement some of my upcoming endeavors. So I hope people are listening and picked up, because I was able to pick up and learn a couple of things there. I appreciate that. What do I want to ask you next about that? There was a couple different things. Um, so you touched on the team and the fractional CMO model. That's what I wanted to talk about, because I do that. You know what I'm saying? And you can tell that it's such a transparent model. Like, hey, if my team can do it, cool. If not, I'm going to be the quarterback, and I'm going to make sure that you're directed into a trusted place. And I have had amazing success with the fractional CMO model, and I'm sure you're doing it well. I think it's great. Really creates a lot of transparency there. So, um, you know, that being said, what are kind of the some of the hurdles that you see a lot of clients struggling with, and you may want to just elaborate a little bit more, because you brought up these two different people. And I think in between those is their stories and their brand identities and things like that. So feel free to proceed on that.
How do I answer this? Because I am a PR person, I have to remember that, but I'm also a New Yorker and I'm also Nigerian, and we tend to be very blunt.
Mhm.
So I'll tell you the stories and make sure I just eliminate names. I had a client, I worked with them for 3 years, and they were initially they were ideal clients because they just let me run with everything. And then after a while, when they realized that they really had to change in order to get what they want, because you cannot, what got you here is not what's going to get you there. They're, they kept creating resistance, unnecessary resistance in terms of getting them to where they want to be. You hired me, you're paying me a lot of money, you need to listen to me. And that becomes a lot of the challenges sometimes because and on one end, I get it, I understand it. Change is scary. Um, Trusting somebody that has the chops and expertise and the background, as logical as that is to me,
Mhm.
sometimes the people they trust that the decision to hire me, but then when I'm telling them to do something that they've never done before, then it becomes this challenge between them. And it's always this constant like, look, I understand, but in order for you to get here, this is what you're going to have to do. Um, One perfect example, one client that just frustrated me so much because I've never, in my 20 years, I've never sat somebody down in front of a reporter and a story never came out of it. Never, ever in my 20 years until this client. And the other thing I did before this client was I would never go into an interview with a client. I would media train them, work all the questions, all the scenarios, and then I'd leave them alone with the journalists because journalists like that. They prefer not to have somebody over their shoulder making sure this that. I found later on because I had to go. I have a network, a PR network I'm part of, and everybody's like, "No, I'm always on the call," and I'm like, "I've never been on the call in 20 years." But I've had to find a way to make it work because I need to understand why I'm putting you in front of all these reporters and nothing, a story's not coming out. And specifically, there was a Vogue business one. This is the one that really irritated me. There was a
Mhm.
Vogue business interview that I set up, and 3 minutes after the interview ended, the client calls me. I'm like, only 3 minutes? He's like, yeah, she only asked me 2 or 3 questions. I'm like, well, I sold her on a lot of what you're doing because it fits the story she's working on. He's like, well, the article comes out, the client's not mentioned, but everything she covered in the article, the client was doing. But she used other companies as representative in the article versus my client because my client did not give her what she wanted. Now, after that, I had to sit down with the client. I'm like, look, this is how you need to present yourself. And I would give him specific talking points and all this. And he get upset when like, Lillian, you're trying to change me. Oh, you're trying to make me sound like you. I'm like, all right, you don't have to sound like me. All right. Just here are the talking points. Find a way to make it work for you. And he just, it was always this like pulling teeth with him.
Yeah.
And it's that struggle. I understand entrepreneurship. I know I started my first company at 19. I know it's challenging, I know it's scary, but you cannot succeed without changing yourself. Even myself, I constantly am trying to find ways to be better, constantly learning new things because I know everything I know that's made me as successful as I am is not going to make me even more successful unless I start adapting to what's going on in the environment. So that is the biggest challenge, but that's also something I want entrepreneurs to be more aware of, that you're going to need to change the way that you're doing things. The reason why you went out to hire somebody, you knew enough to say, I can't, I'm missing something, but then you're also going to need to trust the person that you
Mhm.
hire. At the same time, um, that company, I end up stopping. I stopped working with them. I didn't renew that. We decided to pause the contract, which it came at the right time because my mom unfortunately became sick. And then I end up just I stopped working to take care of my mom. She had cancer and then she ended up passing away.
Sorry to hear that.
But
Sorry to-
it the timing was perfect for that. But I was still in communication with them in terms of when we were going to get started, blah blah blah. During that time, they hired another consultant, and they wanted me to talk with her, and I did, and she ended up insulting me in so many levels. She's French. nothing against the French. I have a lot of French clients in my portfolio, but sometimes if you work with the French, you know they're not the most diplomatic in how they talk. So the thing is now this woman has advised them to do things that has now sent the company down. So they did a rebrand of their company name to something that has no explanation whatsoever. So all the work I was able to do for them, all the press I was able to get them, it doesn't matter now because they're no longer using that name, including getting them into Wikipedia. It's very hard to get a Wikipedia piece. I got them into Wikipedia. All of that doesn't matter now because they rebranded and they didn't do a strategic rebrand.
Mm,
Meaning a strategic rebrand has a process to it. You just don't turn the switch and now you're a different company.
right.
There is a slow process to it. They didn't do any of that. This is what the consultant advised her to do them to do. And so all everything we built up in my 3 years working with them is now gone because they listened to this idiot who told them to do something that was very, very, very bad for them.
Right.
So I know I just contradicted myself. So it's a matter of when you hire somebody good, trust them. When somebody says things that you need to think through the long-term consequences of what it is that you're doing. So
Hmm.
that would be like the difference between myself and the consultant that they brought in is me seeing the long-term consequences instead of just going to like, oh yeah, let's do this rebrand, let's start again, blah blah blah. So and it's been interesting watching what has become of the company since then.
Yeah, I mean, I've owned my agency for 15 years. I fully understand what you're talking about. There's uncontrollable variables that can be really tough. And there's also a lot of sales forward agencies and consultants. And that's why I like the fractional CMO model because it's like I could sell all day,
Yeah.
you know. But to go in and sell a rebrand super quick like that without thinking about directory listings, without thinking about all the footprints in the past decade of brand footprint and identity is sounds like a sales situation. But without a doubt, especially when you're going from, let's say, small to medium or medium to large, that shedding of that skin is a tough process. And I see that, I'm sure we all have it, all experience it, all entrepreneurs, especially if they're pushing the pace, but um, they struggle to scale. Scaling is not easy. It requires a different brain, a different operation. And, you know, one major thing is just you got to continue to be a student, especially in times like
Absolutely.
this. Like you got to lend your ear to stuff and put your guard down. And I understand not all marketers can be trusted. I know time to be a CEO and check a marketing team and check a consultant. Um, but I can be empathetic with you on that. And sometimes there's just times where hey, the brand has decided this is what we're doing, and if they're not listening to it anymore, then you as a consultant probably need to just part ways with that because you're going to end up being the one responsible.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the funny thing about this consultant is that she wasn't even a marketing consultant. She was a headhunter.
Mm. Oh, for recruiting?
Yes.
Ooh, sketchy.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm skirting the line of revealing who this client is, so
let's
but
not do
it's
that. Yeah.
it is insane. The amount of stupidity that was involved in all the decisions since I left the company and how badly they've gone since then. They've been running LinkedIn ads, and I'm like, why are you running LinkedIn ads when your target is consumers? People don't go on LinkedIn to buy jewelry. All right. They
Right.
go on LinkedIn to do business. This is not where you should be investing your LinkedIn dollars. You should be investing your LinkedIn dollars in order to create new business contacts and maybe new vendors.
Distributors or
Yeah,
yeah.
all of that. But no, they're running ads that are more targeted, tailored to consumers. So it's
Yep.
just like I'm watching like this slow train wreck, and my irritation is only at wow, all the work I did for you guys destroyed it over in one day and didn't even realize it. After this woman who insulted me, by this woman who insulted me, and then she's went ahead and broken your company apart. So it's um there should be a sense of justice in it, but I don't feel it because I did want the best for them, and I don't
Yeah,
know.
we do have to, being a marketer is a thankless job. So,
Oh my God,
and they
yes.
don't understand, whatever. So, but that's part of it. Let's jump to a couple other things.
Okay.
So how do you measure success? You know, is it, hey, we got the publication, or um, you know, there was sales, or so how do you measure success?
So, I have two different criteria. The first criteria is based on what the client tells me that they want. And that 20-page questionnaire that I talked about, at the last question is, in 6 months' time, what would you want to see accomplished in our time together? And that's where they put it there, like, this is what I want.
Mm,
And so that's one level of success. I've achieved what the client wants, but my definition tends to be higher than what they want. So they tell me they want, oh, we want to being in 8 different publications. For me, they want 8. I'm going to get them 20.
mhm.
So the definition of success for me is whatever the client says that they want to achieve in our time together that is realistic,
Yeah,
because it's amazing, not me, thankfully, but some people in my PR network still have people coming to them asking them to be on Oprah, which, as we know, Oprah has been off the air for exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But reaching that level and then giving them more.
Mm,
At the end of the day, for me, what makes me happy, I like the money. I'm a capitalist. I'm Nigerian. I love money. But once we've decided on the money, I don't care about that anymore. I care about what you're going to tell people I did for you,
yeah.
and how I accomplished for you. Being able to talk to you about Watchbox and what I did for them. They pay me a lot of money for what I did for them, but I'm more excited about the fact I can say, hey, because of all the publicity I got them, this Hong Kong group was so interested in them that they create this partnership with them. So that to me is success.
Yeah, that's called like an athletic capitalist. You play the sport,
Oh,
you wanna, I mean, those
I like
I've
that.
always found that those are the best professionals. Like I will pretty much narrow it down. If this person is not like super passionate about what they do and they love what they do, I'm usually like, eh. So you want to get the people who have pride
Yes.
in their game.
Yes.
It's like, and in the agency space, apparently there's not a lot of people that care. So I don't know, more sales engines than um masters of their craft, if you will. So that makes life easier for people like you and I. So I do have some questions about how people would hire you, and we don't have to get into numbers or anything like that unless you want to. But what is the structure of hiring? And let's say somebody wanted to be in a publication. How does that work? Can you do one-offs? Is it a monthly retainer? How does that work?
No, one-offs are uh, so there are three different ways to work with me. There is at the highest level, I'm coming in and I'm acting like your external marketing department, and I'm taking care of everything. We're looking at everything from a holistic level. That tends to be at a very higher end. And for that, I start at $10,000 a month to be at that higher end.
Mhm.
The fractional CMO comes down a little bit if your team is doing the work. If I'm doing the work, we're back to that $10,000 plus per month and going from there. Um, I do projects, which when you say, do you do one-offs? I don't necessarily do one-offs. I say, if you're launching a product, right? I can come in for a 6 month period of time that says, all right, from this day to this day, I'm going to represent you and your product launch, and I'm going to get as much press as I can for you during that 6 month period of time. And that ends up being a flat fee based on exactly what the work is. Then at the lower end, we get to what I've called a PR advisor, and to to explain the PR advisor, the PR advisor initially started out as a column I wrote for National Jeweler magazine. It started out 10 years ago. And the idea for it was a Dear Abby. So it's actually called Dear Lillian, the PR advisor. And people would email me and I would tell them all their marketing questions and then I'd answer it. The column was very successful, is very successful because I still have it. Um, except that it was sending clients to me that were not at $10,000 per month.
Hmm.
And for me, it's like, oh, I get into these calls. I'm like, yeah, I can't do it for 5,000. I'm sorry. And I was sending them away for that reason. So I came up with, over the last 2 years, I came up with the idea. I said, okay, let me create this division called the PR advisor where you are hiring my brain. It's kind of like the fractional CMO model, but it's at a lower scale. And depending on how many hours a month we're working, we're looking at somewhere between $3,500, a flat rate package of 4 months, and I think it's like 2 or 3 phone calls per month, but all very structured phone calls to much higher depending on how much time you need with me. So it works from there. So starting at, or if you want to hire me hourly at $300 and we sit and we work through your strategy and everything. It's a couple of different ways I've made possible for people to work with me.
Absolutely. Totally get it, and makes full sense to me. I understand all those. I just thought it'd be nice to share that. Number one, I'd like to know. Number two, someone in the audience may want to know. So, couple of questions in regards to the types of clients that you work with and do not work with. So, can you just give me like a 1 minute thing or 30-second thing on your ideal client?
Uh, my focus is consumer product companies with a specialty on luxury because that's been my background. I am I've been doing that for 20 years. I've been in the watch and jewelry space for 20 years. I am now looking to expand a little bit more, particularly now that I'm in Miami, looking at hotels. As I mentioned to you earlier, it's Tech Week here in Miami, so I've been going to a lot of different meetings, different conferences. One of the ways I started out my agency, I told you at the beginning that I started out with watches. How I got into jewelry came from the French Trade Commission.
Mm,
So they would bring me to New York when they have what are called trade missions from France. Companies from France, jewelry companies from France who want to do business in the US, they would bring me in to meet, sit down with them, explain the US market to them. And if they end up coming to the US, they would hire me to do PR. So that's how I went from just watches to watches and jewelry.
mm.
So now this week I've also been meeting with different embassies and trade commissions here to see about their clients coming in and see if I can serve as an advisory level. So at this point in my career, I am trying to branch out beyond watches and jewelry, but watches and jewelry still remain my love.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. And so, um, have you ever done any apparel
Oh
companies?
yes, early on,
Okay,
early on.
I might have something for you. I'll write it down. But
Now with apparel, they would need to have a showroom already. Well, it depends to or if they're doing direct to consumer or if they're trying to do wholesale getting to department stores.
I'll let you know that for sure. I'll kind of dive into it and then see if I can connect some dots for you.
Okay.
So, let me ask you one other question about what services do you guys don't do and that you hand off? Like, are you guys doing PPC? I know you mentioned some SEO, direct outreach, software development, things like that. What are you guys
Um,
not touching?
uh, I, I'm personally learning Facebook advertising and digital marketing, advertising, Google ads, and all that. I'm personally learning so I can have better conversations about it. But that's something I do outsource. Um, there are branding things when it comes to creative branding. I will also outsource that. I find partners for that. Um, Basically anything that falls under advertising, including media buying and all that, that I'm going to outsource because that's not my bread and butter. I am starting to learn more about it so I can have intelligent conversations about it. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's something I'm going to incorporate that I personally offer. It's going to be more of a subcontractor type thing.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. All right, so I'm super interested to hear what have you learned about AI and how are you using it so far?
Oh my God. Like the AI conversation is just tricky with me because all I think about is ChatGPT. And my friends will tell you I've started calling ChatGPT my boyfriend because it's
Mhm.
like it just gives me, I ask it a question and it just gives me the facts. It gives me everything I need. No, nothing, no questioning, just like direct to the point. I'm like, I love it. This is what I need. So I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT. I use it all the time. Um, eh, outside of business, we'll take for instance, my mom's estate. I've had to like go through all this, learn all this stuff in terms of closing my mom's estate, and ChatGPT has been immensely helpful, even with that. Because I'd read that it passed the bar in certain states, and I asked it, "Did you pass in Florida?" It's like, "Yes." So pretend you're my probate lawyer. Tell me what I need to do, and it
Yes.
just like spit out everything, even down to writing a letter for me for something I needed to get done, that the letter was effective. So like I use it for everything, but in business too. I come up with ideas like when I was doing the PR advisor, the new website for the PR advisor. I because I needed to get out of my own head, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking of structuring it like this. What do you think? And ChatGPT will just again point out holes, point out different areas in which I can improve and make it better. So it's just been extraordinary. On the site too, I have 3 courses that I have on the site. The customer journey, working with influencers, and getting your products on your jewelry and accessories on Hollywood movies without paying for it.
Ooh,
So even with that, what I did with that, those 3 courses I actually gave lectures of them for different companies brought me in to teach them. So I took my notes from those lectures I gave to create the videos, but then I uploaded my notes into ChatGPT and it spit out all the questions for quizzes because there are quizzes that are attached to each module. ChatGPT wrote all the quiz questions. And then I said, okay, I'd like to do, in addition to if somebody takes a course, I want them to have a 10 to 15 email series that reinforces everything that they learn in the course. So ChatGPT created workbooks and the email series that go out just based on me just uploading my script. So I mean, it's just I can't. We could talk all day about how I've used ChatGPT. It is just amazing.
I love the first example that you used, because a great way for people to understand it is through like personal tasks at first.
Yes.
I mean, I've been able to say, this is what I have in the room. This is the type of style I'm going for. I have this couch. I have that table. Blah, 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 mid-century brown cut to the T, right? Um, and it's a great way to kind of get started. And if you had to pick one, I would pick ChatGPT because ChatGPT honestly is so plugged into everything and everyone's kind of funneling in there. Um, it's just incredible. I don't know how to explain it or quantify it, but what I like to tell people is, have you ever seen the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper?
Oh yes, yes.
That is what it's like every morning.
Exactly. It's another
I'm
brain.
running it,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
five or six of them at a time, couple different screens, which you do know you can have like 6 different tabs and they can all run. Sometimes they stop
I
and
didn't know that.
yeah,
Oh,
there's quite they can be running more than one at a time. Um,
oh my God. You've just like X'd my productivity. Thank you for that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll give you a whole, but we got some stuff coming up like my top 10 tools. You mentioned wanting to, not being able to have to remind ChatGPT. There's tools that you pull it in your brand voice from the beginning and brand colors and all types of different stuff. There's a whole knowledge base that it will attract. And then not only that, it follows me wherever I go. So I don't really respond to emails anymore. I'll write it up. I'm terrible with grammar. I mean, I'm just like as far as like typos, but
Yes,
I'm
yes, yes.
fast, whatever. Highlight it, it comes up. I tell it, improve it, make it professional, make it funny, make it engaging, and this AI bot travels around with me. It can read an email if it wants to respond. I'll do it. But that same tool also allows you to train a brand voice, and that'll come out with our top 10 AI tools that are going to be free. So yeah, I think you definitely are, in the right spot. I think that if someone's a business owner, I don't know if you have a choice to adopt AI. I've had some crazy AI trainings with people that worked for 7 presidents. His IQ is higher than Einstein. There's a TV show about him. And some of the things that he shared were quite scary from a humanity standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
But as a business owner, look, it's here. You got to start using it. And so, number one is finding the right tools. And then number two is using that, knowing how to use them correctly and
Yeah,
efficiently. Um, so I think you're definitely on the way there. I would love to have another conversation with you about it in further depth, but that I think it's a pretty deep conversation. And given the clients and the kind of the space that you're in and I'm in, I think it'll be a fun conversation. I have a lot of cool stuff to show you too. So,
absolutely. I think I'd learn from you. I'd just be listening throughout the conversation. So
well, I think there's a few conversations that we have to probably have. I think there's some synergy. I think we're kind of on both different ends of the spectrums. But definitely some synergy and some overlap, whether it's through my contacts, my network, some of these opportunities that I already have a couple that came up this week that may be able to send to you. And then, from there, we build a relationship, which is what this stuff
absolutely.
is all about. We're in technology, we're in digital advertising and AI, but I love the human part about it. That's why I like doing this podcast. It works and it does serve for some pretty fruitful connections. I'm actually going to San Diego this week on the 22nd for my AI graduation, and I'm going to hang out with one of the first people I had on this podcast who's building a pretty cool platform at customjewelry.com. His name is Simon. So it's all about building relationships. So love to do that with you. You've really been a good guest. You obviously know your stuff. Congratulations, respect.
Thank
I
you.
know how hard it is um, to get from one point to another, and you've definitely done that. And you surely have been battle tested to where you bring a lot of skills to the table and experience. So if people do want to get a hold of you, you just reiterate where they can find you. And I'll do that as well, obviously. But guys, Bling Talks, Lillian Raji, lillianraji.com. And if you have LinkedIn or anything like that, please feel free to share.
Yes. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Lillian Raji PR, I think, is my LinkedIn handle. The PRadvisor.com I call emerging to mid-sized brands, go to the PRadvisor.com. Larger brands, visit me at lillianraji.com. Again, connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with people there. And yeah, and thank you for having me on the show. It's great.
It was a pleasure. You're a rock star. I love meeting people like you and building this community. So look forward to building a relationship with you. It's my pleasure. You're an outstanding guest and definitely good at what you do. And it's been a pleasure. So guys, check us out. If you need to get a hold of Lillian Raji, you know where to do it. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys picked up some information and over and out. See you soon.